Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so that you know when live we go. Hello and welcome to RAU'S IAS DNS session. Today we are going to have a discussion on today's newspaper, The Hindu, Delhi edition dated 15 December 2021. We shall pick up articles important for civil service examination and discuss them as per the demand of the exam. There is a news article on page number 2. Disclose all ingredients used in the food items. Manufacturers have been told by the Delhi High Court. The Delhi High Court has ruled that the manufacturers must disclose the full and complete list of all ingredients that goes into making of any food article. The bench giving judgment has ordered the food business operators which manufacture food item to disclose on the packaging all the ingredients, not only by their code names as certain preservatives are called in the business circle, but also by disclosing as to whether they originate from plant or animal source, or whether they are manufactured in laboratory, irrespective of their percentage in the food article. This is important because High Court has taken notice that some business operators are taking advantage of a clause in the food safety and standard regulations which exempt manufacturers from making a declaration about presence of any ingredient if that ingredient constitute less than 5% of the food. And you know that preservatives, they are in smaller amount. So they will be lesser than 5%. So those preservatives are generally not mentioned as ingredients. There are 4 aspects to this news article. First and foremost, as the High Court has observed, is the issue of right to religion. The court also has noticed the issue concerning right to life and personal liberty. Then we'll look at it from the prism of regulatory bodies, FSI in this case. And there is also an issue of corporate social responsibility. The High Court has observed that the use of non-vegetarian ingredients, even in minuscule amount, in food articles would render them non-vegetarian. And this will violate the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion of people. It will also hurt the cultural sentiment of strict vegetarians. As an example, Delhi High Court has put forward the case of E631. This is the code name used in trade of disodium inosinate. This is used as a food additive commonly present in fast foods like noodle, chips, and other snacks. As a matter of fact, it is commercially prepared from meat or fish, and very often it is prepared using pig fat. But the thing is, despite the fact that this additive is being used, the food is branded as vegetarian. But the common sense says that if this ingredient is present, it is essentially a non-vegetarian product. There is also an issue of right to life and personal liberty. Liberty to human beings comes by ability to take decision. Liberty is a natural right of human beings because man is considered to be a rational creature. Aristotle has said that dignity to human beings comes by their ability to take decision. Liberty essentially entails that man should have ability to take decision, which requires information to be available freely, transparently, and fairly. And hence the High Court has observed that every person has a right to know as to what he or she is consuming, and nothing can be offered to the person on the platter by resort of deceit or camouflage. If all information of all ingredient is available, then a person can better decide if he or she should be consuming the product or not. Then there is an issue of regulation in the concerned matter. The High Court has ordered FSI, Food Safety and Standard Authority of India, to verify the claims that have been made by food business operators that the preservatives and other products that they are using, they are according to the information given on the food package. In the syllabus of GS Paper 2, you have mentioned statutory, regulatory, and various quasi-judicial bodies. FSI is a statutory body. It is also an important regulatory body. So from this section of your syllabus, you must prepare for FSI. UPSC in 2008 has asked a question. The Food Safety and Standard Act 2006 replaced the Prevention of Food Adulteration Act 1954. The second statement in the question was, FSI is under the charge of Director General of Health Services in the Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. The first statement is actually correct. As a matter of fact, there were 6 to 8 legislation that was replaced by Food Safety and Standards Act 2006. But FSI, as you would understand, is an autonomous, independent regulatory body. It does not come under the charge of Director General of Health Services. No such autonomous regulatory body will come under the charge of another office under the ministry. Ministry of Health and Family Welfare is the attached ministry for FSI, but FSI as such is an independent autonomous regulatory body. It will not come under the Director General of Health Services. So intuitively, this statement is incorrect. The answer is option A. Taking the opportunity, we'll talk a little bit about FSI. FSI, first of all, is an autonomous statutory body. It was established under Food Safety and Standard Act 2006, so it's a statutory body. It is an autonomous body. That means it will be working independently. It will have an attached ministry, but as such, it will not be working under another regulatory body. Ministry of Health and Family Welfare is the attached ministry of FSI. There were various legislation prior to 2006 that were used to regulate the food supply chain. But Food Safety and Standard Act 2006 replaced all of them. And in 2008, FSI was established. FSI being a regulatory body, the prime function of it is to frame regulations, to grant licenses, to lay down guidelines for laboratories. FSI gives recommendation to Government of India in framing policies related to food and nutrition. FSI also collect data regarding contamination of foods and the emerging risk from the processing of food products. It is also the function of FSI to create awareness, and FSI has come up with various awareness campaigns for food safety and food standards. FSI, as has been established under Food Safety and Standard Act 2006, but it works under various rules and regulations that came later in 2011. Food Safety and Standard Rules 2011 actually created Food Safety Appellate Tribunal and the Registrar of Appellate Tribunal. As is the case with various regulators, the regulator in the front is not the final body, the final authority in adjudicating the case. So there is Food Safety Appellate Tribunal as well. And much of the functioning of FSI is guided by Food Safety and Standards Regulation 2011. The procedure for giving license, registration, most important, packing and labeling of food packets. The detail of this is given in Food Safety and Standards Regulation 2011. Food safety and standards for organic food. The guideline for this is also in this very regulation, and food-related advertisement can also be regulated by FSI under Food Safety and Standard Regulation 2011. FSI comprises of a chairman and 22 members. Note that 1/3 are to be women. The Food Safety and Standards Act 2006 also provided for State Food Safety Commissioner. And this office is largely responsible for the enforcement of guidelines and food standards. UPSC has once asked a question concerning the regulations which are required for labeling of pre-packed food. The Food Safety and Standards Regulation 2011 has asked for 12 kind of information on pre-packed foods. The labeling on pre-packed foods must have the name of the food, the list of ingredients, but then there's an exception. As we saw in the beginning, if an ingredient comprises less than 5% of the food, then it may not be mentioned. The nutritional information has to be there. Declaration regarding veg or non-veg has to be there, but it does not make sense if complete information of ingredient is not there. Declaration concerning food additives has to be there. Name and address of manufacturer also has to be there. The net quantity obviously has to be there. The batch number also has to be there, and these things you must be reading already in the food products. The date of manufacturation, best before and use by date, the country of origin and instruction for use must be there. In 2016, UPSC has asked a question with reference to pre-packed items in India. It is mandatory to the manufacturer to put which of the following information on the main label. As per the Food Safety and Standards Packaging and Labeling Regulations 2011. List of ingredients, nutritional information, recommendations, if any, made by medical professionals about the possibility of any allergic reactions, and vegetarian or non-vegetarian product. As we have seen in the list, there is no mention of any allergic reaction. People who are sensitive to certain kind of ingredients, they can figure it out if they will be allergic to the food product. But as such, it's also a common sense that the same ingredient can cause allergy in some people, it may not cause allergy in other people. So it doesn't make sense to mention that this particular ingredient in the food will cause allergy of this kind, because that is specific to individuals. So if third statement is ruled out, then you will be left with two options, C and D. And you must have read umpteen number of times nutritional information in food packets. So much of calories, so much of protein, so much of carbohydrates, etc., etc. So if you include two, you'll get to the right answer, option C. There's a fourth dimension to the topic of corporate social responsibility. The court has said that failure of authorities, including the FSI, in checking such lapses is leading not only to non-compliance of laws and regulations, but also leading to deceit by such food business operators. This is a very strong observation made by the court that the food business operators, if they do not come clean about the information and very transparently they put down information concerning all the ingredients, then it will amount to deceit. So it's a great concern for corporate governance. In the syllabus of Ethics Paper 4, you'll find the mention of dilemmas in government and private institutions. And separately, corporate governance has been mentioned. So when you prepare notes for this topic, you can use this issue as an example to show how corporate governance must be carried out with integrity and transparency, giving out all the information as has been advocated by the Delhi High Court recently concerning the ingredients in the food product. There is a news article on page number 1. Supreme Court approves widening of 3 Char Dham highways. Supreme Court has actually allowed to widen the roads of the project to 10 km. Previously, Supreme Court allowed it to widen to 5.5 km, but on the request of Ministry of Defense and Army, Supreme Court appointed a committee under the chairmanship of former Judge of Supreme Court, Justice A.K. Sikri. Based upon the recommendation of the committee appointed by the Supreme Court recently, before giving the judgment, has talked about the need to balance national security with environmental concerns. It has been pointed out by the ministry and the army that construction is being carried out on large scale by China across the Indo-China border. In that context, the project becomes extremely important for national security. The foundation stone of the project was laid down by PM Modi in 2016, and it was touted as a tribute to the victim of 2013 flash flood tragedy in Uttarakhand. But then the project was challenged on environmental grounds, alleging irregularities in environmental clearance. But the challenge in NGT was cleared in 2018. Then the case went to Supreme Court and Supreme Court stayed the clearance given by NGT in 2018. But later in 2020, Supreme Court gave a go-ahead to the project, restricting the width of the road to 5.5 meter. But then Defense Ministry soughted modification in the order, with a request to grant permission to increase the width to 10 meters. Then the top court appointed a high-powered committee under Justice A.K. Sikri, and based upon the recommendation, finally Supreme Court has approved the widening of the highway project. The Char Dham highway project is a 900-kilometer long highway project. It aims to provide all-weather connectivity to the 4 holy towns of Yamunotri, Gangotri, Kedarnath and Badrinath. All of them are in the state of Uttarakhand. The relevance from the security point of view is very high because the project will act as a strategic feeder roads which will connect the Indo-China border with the army camps in Dehradun and Meerut. In Dehradun and in Meerut, there are missile bases and heavy machineries respectively. So these strategic feeder routes can be used for faster transportation of troops and ammunition and artilleries in case of a war. The economic significance of the project will also be very high. It can help tap the high tourist potential of the state of Uttarakhand. Goes without saying that the project will increase the employment opportunities and will also connect the hinterland in the rural areas with national highways. However, the environmental concerns are also huge. If you see in the map the state of Uttarakhand, the geography of this, as you would be aware, and if you just zoom into the region of Gangotri, Yamunotri, here we have Kedarnath, and you can see here Badrinath. This is Gangotri, this is Yamunotri. Here is Kedarnath, and this is Badrinath. First of all, look at the geography. As you can see here in the satellite map, the region is full of forest and glaciers. If you go to the landscape mode of the satellite image, you will see the region is full of mountains and ridges. So the region is prone to landslides and hence overburdening with road infrastructure may destabilize the geology of the region. Wider roads will invite more traffic and could be detrimental to the area's biodiversity. There are some very important endangered species in the region. For example, Khalij pheasant. It's a bird typically found in the region. Tragopans and various species of vultures. There's also one endangered fish, golden mahseer. The increased vehicular emissions and the indiscriminate blasting that will be done during road construction will crack up the soil and the rock and can enhance the possibility of flash flood in future. Although there is no link between the Char Dham project and the recent tragedy in Chamoli caused by breaking down of glacier, but the concern of the future flash flood in the region is very, very real. There's also a concern that the hard material that will be used to construct the road will reduce the percolation of rainwater, which in turn will affect the groundwater recharge, and in the long run, the groundwater level. The region is very fragile. It has many protected areas around as well. But national security along the Indo-China border is equally important. This is the dilemma that as a nation we have to face and we have to take decision. The decision has been taken by Supreme Court. What we need is the prudent implementation of the decision, environment-friendly construction, and minimal damage to the biodiversity will show that we resolve the dilemma successfully. There is an article on page number 6. The national monetization pipeline is hardly the panacea for growth in India. Well, the headline of the article is so very correct because nothing alone can be the panacea for growth in India for that matter. But however, concerning national monetization pipeline, the topic has been discussed in great detail in the DNS of 27th August 2021. The entire topic has been discussed very comprehensively in this DNS. I'll present to you very succinctly the idea of national monetization pipeline here. The Union Budget of 2021-2022 presented the idea of asset monetization. And with the mandate of this idea, Niti Aayog, along with the line ministries for infrastructure, developed the National Monetization Pipeline. National Monetization Pipeline estimates aggregate monetization potential of rupees 6 lakh crore through core assets of central government over the period of 4 years from 2022 to 2025. This is in line with the timeline for National Infrastructure Pipeline. But the issue that the author has raised in the article concerns with the cyclic nature of the philosophy behind National Monetization Pipeline. The idea behind National Monetization Pipeline is pretty simple one. PSUs are holding some assets. Some of them are not being handled efficiently. So the idea is to lease out those assets to private companies. The benefit of this would be, number one, there will be upfront money for the government. Number two, government will have to pull out of the management of the asset and more efficiently, it is assumed to be managed by private companies. Thirdly, the leasing out will be done on the condition of asset development. Once the asset is developed and is managed by private companies for quite some time, according to the leasing agreement, the asset will come back in the hands of the government. With asset development and private management, the people of India will benefit in terms of quality service delivery. So asset monetization is not privatization. And if it works out, it's a win-win for everyone. This idea of asset monetization already has been applied in various infrastructural projects in India. For example, Terminal T3. T3 terminal of the airport of Delhi was initially being developed by Airport Authority of India. Later, the management of this was given to GMR. And if you would have ever visited T3, you would understand, realize, experience the change that GMR has brought in T3. It has been modernized. In some of the ranking, it stands at number 3 in international airports ranking. But the ownership of the airport, Terminal T3, still remains with Government of India. And the management will again come back in the hands of Airport Authority of India. And with that, the cycle will be completed. And here lies the problem as highlighted by the author. According to the framework of monetization of core assets, there are certain imperatives based on which the monetization plan will be carried out. First of all, monetization is of rights, it is not of ownership. The monetization will be done of brownfield de-risk assets. And if the PSUs inherently are not made efficient, and this exactly is the point of the author, that the need for monetization has arisen because PSUs are not working efficiently. So the brownfield projects, the projects that has already been started but seems to be less viable for Government of India, or there is difficulty in management of that asset will be monetized. The need for monetization is certification of inefficiency. There are multiple concerns. If there are inefficiency in development of project, then the projects which are at the brownfield stage can be so messed up that you will find less taker of those brownfield projects. And then after the leasing period is over and the infrastructure project is handed over back to the PSU, then the same issue of mismanagement will be still there. But just to add to the framework of monetization, you must know that the monetization will be done strictly based on stable revenue stream for the government. And for this, there are defined strict key performance indicators and performance standards for the company. They have to adhere to these indicators and standards only then under the leasing agreement for monetization. So revenue will start streaming in, assets will be developed, and quality service delivery to citizens can be ensured. But the problem is the inefficiency of PSU can result in highly inefficient brownfield projects, and latter management of the infrastructure, again once the leasing period is over, can again become inefficient because systemic change in PSU might not have been brought about. So the PSUs can keep creating assets and it will keep getting stuck at the brownfield stage, and the requirement for monetization to private companies can persistently exist. So the bottom line of the entire article is, why don't we make our PSUs more efficient? Why not to avoid delay in project completions? Why not to have labor reforms? Why not to improve the interministerial coordination? And the excessive government control in PSUs must reduce for greater functional autonomy. The same thing, the problems around monetization plan and the solution to this has been discussed in great length in the concerned DNS that I have given reference to. Now sit back and answer a few questions based only on what we have discussed in the last 20 minutes. Disodium isocyanate is common food preservative. You have to say either the statement is true or it is false. Now sit back and answer, and you would know the common food preservatives which involve potassium bromate. Disodium isocyanate is not a food preservative. It is a food additive that is used to enhance taste, and disodium isocyanate is used along with MSG. So these are taste enhancers used in fast foods. The statement is false. Food Safety and Standard Authority of India is under the aegis of Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. This is an easy one for you. The statement is false again because FSI is under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. FSI has the power to inspect premises and seize and arrest in case of food adulteration. Now you have to use your common sense to answer this statement because we didn't discuss this. But we discussed the nature and the function of FSI. This is a regulatory body generally giving recommendation to government in policy matters, creating awareness, setting up standards, and giving regulations for laboratories, etc. The food safety inspector does have the power to inspect premises, but seizing the material and arrest has gone too far. The statement, obviously, because of arrest, sounds incorrect, and statement is false. Food Safety and Standard Act 2006 provides for food safety and standards on organic food. You see, Food Safety and Standard Act 2006 does not provide for food safety and standards on organic food. It is the regulation to the Act of 2011 that provides for the same. So strictly speaking, the statement will be incorrect. Nutritional information and declaration regarding food additives are mandatory for labeling of pre-packed foods as per the Food Safety and Standards Regulations 2011. This is indeed correct. There are 12 requirements for pre-packed foods that we have seen during the discussion, and that is provided by Food Safety and Standards Regulations of 2011. The statement is factual and true. 1/3 of the members of FSI are mandated to be women. The statement again is correct. National monetization pipeline involves monetization of rights, not of ownership. This is the basic fundamental characteristic of national monetization pipeline. The statement is absolutely correct. Mandate for asset monetization was given in the Union Budget of 2019-20 during the first phase of COVID-19. UPSC has started to do this. They have started to give wrong here in the options. So you have to be roughly aware as to when the important initiative of Government of India started. The mandate for asset monetization was given in the Union Budget of 2021-22. So the statement is false. Golden mashir fish is the longest living freshwater fish, and they are native to mountain and submountain region. During the course of discussion for Char Dham highway project, we discussed that in the region there is fish golden mashir. Even if you don't know that it is the longest living water fish, generally this kind of information are benign and correct. You should go with it. The statement is true. Nanda Devi National Park is between Kedarnath and Badrinath. Now, this may be on the tougher end. Here is Kedarnath, here is Badrinath, and Nanda Devi National Park is on the other side of Badrinath. It is not between Kedarnath and Badrinath. For the prelims examination, you must have rough idea regarding location of important protected areas, their location vis-a-vis other important geographical features. So the statement here is incorrect. I hope you attempted the test with me. Please share your score in the comment section. If you have any doubt regarding this, please put down your query, have some fruitful discussion, and for more practice, you should also attempt the DNS quiz on the ELEARN platform.